Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and bad news for you, Josh. There's no way to tell who the father of your baby is because you got balled by too many guys.
I went down to Haight-Ashbury and I just let myself go and they took advantage of me. It's a real sad story.
Talk about free love.
Yeah, a little too free.
And the Maharajas just mixed it up a little too much.
I don't know what was going on there. So in this season of Awesome Movie Year, we're talking about the films of 1971, and we're here at our future cult classic episode to talk about the really astonishingly bizarre pop culture phenomenon known as Billy Jack. And you think of a cult classic usually as a movie that kind of didn't find an audience or didn't succeed initially and then built over time this very devoted fan base. But weirdly, this is a movie that was a huge hit and then I feel like almost entirely disappeared from pop culture consciousness, except for that cult of people who are really into it.
I mean, we have gone over a few of these like Blair Witch, where it's always like, wow, if you look at the smallest amount of money to the largest return, Billy Jack's right up there.
Yeah, it really is. This was at one time, it's hard to find the exact where this is cited and it's like adjusted for inflation. But at one time, this could be considered the highest grossing independent film of all time. It was all thanks to writer, director, and star Tom Laughlin, creator of the Billy Jack character, who had appeared initially in a 1967 film called The Born Losers, and then graduated here to star in his own film. And Jason, you watched The Born Losers.
I did watch The Born Losers, and speaking of confusing, it's confused. It's one of those kind of Wild One biker movies, but the bikers are like bad guys. They don't do many bad things, except then they do a lot of raping, which is very bad. But
that is bad.
It's like late 60s, early 70s. So they're like, these kids and their rapes, there's so many movies of this time period where they just treat rape like they're lighting firecrackers off on the neighbor's, front porch or something. So Billy Jack's the hero, but there's so much time spent away from him. I'm like, am I supposed to be rooting for the Born Losers, the bikers? Because like they do this whole scene where like the leader of the Born Bikers like gets his little brother away from his abusive dad. And he's like, if you come with me, you'll never have to worry about the old man hitting you again. And I'm like, wait, now he's a good guy. Like, what is happening here? So, it's a strange movie. And watching that, you wouldn't be like, yes, there is a breakout character here in Billy Jack. But Laughlin was ahead of everybody on that one.
He was. I think also the muddled sense of morality could apply to Billy Jack. I didn't watch The Born Losers, but that's certainly something that I thought about watching this movie and that critics kind of brought up even at the time, where you wonder, like, what is the message exactly? Or who are we against in this movie? Who are we for? I mean, maybe it's a little clearer than what you're saying about the biker gangs. I mean, there's definitely characters in this movie who are clearly the bad guys. But I think the overall message is maybe a little confused.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, one of the bad guys, Bernard, who I'm a fan of the British pronunciation as opposed to Bernard, right?
Yeah.
Like the first time you see him, his dad wants him to like shoot some cattle, right?
No, they're Mustangs, wild
Mustangs. Okay, and he's like, I can't shoot him, and you're like, oh, Bernard's like the nice guy, but and then you know what he does, Josh? A rape.
Yeah, that's Tom Laughlin. We got to wonder about that.
No, I honestly don't think it's Tom Laughlin. I think there's plenty of movies of this time period that, and we've covered a few, like where like rape is like, it's the inciting incident in the same way that like, if someone dumped you is an inciting incident or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it's maybe, I didn't see the other movie, but maybe it's given a bit more seriousness in this movie, but you're right. Absolutely. That is how it's treated. And maybe that's partly the time period, but the fact that he does it in 2 movies in a row makes you wonder a little bit about that.
I think they treat it the same in both.
Yeah, right. But the fact that it's there both times. But either way, perhaps a confused film, but certainly Tom Laughlin was not confused. He clearly had a vision. He had passion. He got this movie made despite two different studios pulling out. American International Pictures, the Roger Corman company, did not want this sort of weird political didactic lecture. And so they stopped financing it. You had 20th Century Fox step in so the movie could be finished, but then they wouldn't distribute it. And so eventually it was distributed by Warner Brothers. The credits don't mention any of those people. They mention they call it the student film company. I'm not really sure where exactly that came from, but I wouldn't entirely I would believe that this was a student film if you told me that.
Well, you can believe it all the way to the bank, Josh.
Yeah, so it was a huge box office hit. Tom Laughlin's vision was vindicated. It grossed $10 million in its initial release on an $800,000 budget. So already that's massively successful, but eventually grossed another $50 million in its later re-releases. And like I said, I feel like if you talk to somebody who grew up in the 70s and you mentioned Billy Jack, it's oh yeah, Billy Jack, that was a huge deal. And if you talk to someone like I was born at the end of the 70s, never heard of Billy Jack. So it was a very brief moment of superstardom for this character.
I mean, was it though? The Born Losers 67, reissued in 74, 36 million total gross off of 400,000. So 2 movies he did that with, dude.
Right. And in 74 was the release of The Trial of Billy Jack, which got this massive nationwide, sort of revolutionary, pre-blockbuster, pre-Jaws release. And that
he kind of orchestrated. He was
right,
the one
exactly.
Who
and and he could do that because Billy Jack was such a massively popular thing. And that was really the height of it. So yeah, between 1971 and 1974, I would say it was a pretty short window of time.
67, bro.
Well, but that movie did okay in 67, and it was only after the success of Billy Jack, right? As you were saying, it was re-released later on and made all that extra money. So it seems like the period of this huge pop culture attention on this character was relatively short.
Yeah, and of course there's the sad, aspects of he wanted to make more, and there was always interference, and he says that senators said that they weren't going to let it be released. But the sad thing to me is these movies made so much money and he was never able to get the funding for the other ones, which means that he got screwed out of his money.
I mean, I don't know. I hope he didn't get screwed out of his money. It seems maybe more that he spent his money on his weird crackpot other ventures. And I'm not sure, having watched this movie, how sad I am that there are only 4 movies featuring Billy Jack. I feel like that's plenty, honestly.
Well, I watched 2 of them, so I'm better than you.
Yeah, clearly, in many ways.
So,
weirdly, this was also nominated for a Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer Female, which is not an award they give out anymore, for Delores Taylor, Tom Laughlin's wife and co-writer, who plays the woman who runs the Freedom School in this film, and stepped in only at the last minute because one of the actresses from The Born Losers was supposed to return as her character to run that school, and she dropped out. And I feel like whatever you want to say about this movie, Delores Taylor was not one of the most promising newcomers in film in 1971.
I will agree with you wholeheartedly. I guess she was adequate, but really not much going on there, bro.
No, I feel like a lot of the acting in this movie is pretty weak, and she is included in there. I mean, there's a lot of non-actors in this movie who do not deliver on their performances. So despite also this being kind of a big pop culture deal, critics were not exactly into it. Roger Ebert said, "There are a lot of things in Billy Jack that are seriously conceived and very well handled. Some of the scenes at the school, for example, with real kids experimenting with psychodrama, are interesting. Some of the action scenes are first rate. There's a lot of dialogue, mostly involving put-downs of the older generation. I'm also somewhat disturbed by the central theme of the movie. Billy Jack seems to be saying the same thing as The Born Losers, that a gun is better than a constitution in the enforcement of justice. Is democracy totally obsolete then? Is our only hope that the good fascists defeat the bad fascists? Tom Laughlin and Delores Taylor are still asking themselves these questions, and Billy Jack arrives at a conclusion that is only slightly more encouraging."
Well, I mean, this just keeps coming up. These movies from 1971 we're recording this the week that Renee Good was murdered by an ICE agent for no reason. So yeah, if there are any good fascists out there, please take care of these terrible, bad fascists for us, because I'm sick of living with them.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the idea is that that's great as long as those people seem to be on your side. But do you want Billy Jack to be the dictator? And if you disagree with Billy Jack, he does not hesitate to use violence against you.
I mean, he did hesitate to use violence often in this film, one. And
he
two,
hesitated and then went ahead.
Honestly, I'd rather have Billy Jack, Jimmy Crackhorn, and I don't care anybody but the guy we have in charge right now. But
I mean, sure, but
right.
I feel like that's a slippery slope to saying like,
yes.
well, yeah.
Yes, I agree. But from a movie standpoint, right? Like, you know, you might compare this to like a Jason Statham type thing today, right? And you want him, like, you can't not, you're rooting for him to use that, like, you know, as a protagonist.
I think the difference is that a Jason Statham movie isn't stopping to give you a long lecture about pacifism and the, you know, proper political standpoint. It's just Jason Statham killing people.
I did appreciate the attempt of like, hey, we're going to give you a counterpoint of to like, hey, you shouldn't use violence because this, that, or the other. But it was not effectively done. I will agree with that.
No, I mean, I think that's my thing, is that it's just very inconsistent. And that, again, is something that critics at the time emphasized. Howard Thompson in the New York Times also felt that way. He said, for a picture that preaches pacifism, Billy Jack seems fascinated by violence, of which it is full. Furthermore, the violence commences to pile on predictably and endlessly, with an assortment of town bullies and psychopaths right out of Western stereotypes. As for the folks at the school, which often amounts to a stockade, they certainly are a genial, harmless bunch, bent on doing their own thing. But some of their guitar whimpering is terrible, and several of those, quote, now pantomimes meant to be amusing are too cute for words.
I mean, I'll agree that some of those bad guys were lame. I hope it gave you a new appreciation for Buford T. Justice from Smokey and the Bandit, Josh, because that's a real 70s Southern Fried villain right there. You know? So,
yeah.
I didn't mind the, you know, the hippy dippy school stuff as much. The use of improv I thought was good enough. You know, all of this comes because Laughlin actually quit acting in the early 60s to start a Montessori school. So he's drawing on his real life experience. And it became the largest school of its kind in the United States, Josh.
And then it closed and went bankrupt. So I feel like it's a metaphor for his film career here as well.
I went to Montessori as a preschooler.
Yeah, I mean, Montessori itself is a system that there's many schools, but Laughlin's specific one that he opened. So no, I agree with this guy. Guitar whimpering, I feel like, is a good way to describe all this terrible folk songs. And the improv stuff was the worst. It just went on and on.
He hates improv in movies.
I mean, we've talked about, I'm sure, or if we haven't, I will say that there are plenty of comedy movies that feature improv that is funny that I enjoy, you know? And I think a key to those movies is that they shoot a massively larger amount than they use in the movie. And if you watched all of what they shot, it would be terrible. But they know how to find the gold. And part of it is going through the improv process to get to those points. And this feels like, I made me think about being at summer camp with like in, you know, theater class with just that every camper had to take, regardless of whether they knew what they were doing or not. And, you know, the sort of fumbling that people would go through. And it was fucking interminable. And the songs are terrible too. Except for that one Tin Soldier, which is sort of the theme song that was a big pop hit. There's however they were created, if the actors, it feels like the actors wrote those songs or improvised them, but it was not.
Well, maybe Dave will take my side. I do agree that a lot of the songs were terrible, but the more gospel-y songs, you know, the more soulful songs I enjoyed.
I didn't particularly like the songs, but I did like how weird it got when they would kind of like juxtapose with other scenes and like audio would trail off, you know, obviously a thing that we see in all kinds of movies, but like it was especially weird here, just how different it was going from scenes of like violence to scenes of them just singing about Billy Jack or singing about whatever gospel thing. Like it was very mixed up and all over the place.
Dave, have you ever done any gospel music?
Question. I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Do you think me and you should put out a gospel album?
Maybe a gospel Pups album.
Oh my God. It's just getting worse than the music in Billy Jack.
Yeah, that's on me, Josh. I tried to come up with a good idea.
Totally your fault.
You ruined it. What is that? How you're going to reanimate your dead dog?
Yeah, with big number. Yeah, get the spirit in him. Yeah.
All right. So finally, Stuart Byron in The Village Voice had a more positive take. He said, a popular line on Billy Jack is that it preaches pacifism while displaying violence. Whereas to me, its purpose is to try to understand and reconcile these contrasting forces in American life. The sincerity on the part of the filmmakers, plus their feeling for American pluralism, informs the ending where a series of right-on clenched fists becomes a symbol for peace and are incredibly moving. In America, the film seems to be saying, what starts out meaning one thing can be made to mean another. Billy Jack is the nicest surprise of the year, and my own feeling is that it ranks among the top half dozen American films so far in 1971.
Well, what I took from that, again, is literally going back to this week. What starts out as one thing becomes another. Don't tread on me. Nobody loves being tread on more than the don't tread on me people at this point in time. Nobody's less Christian than right-wing Christians. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make this like a right-wing podcast at the moment. I'm just kind of disgusted with what's going on. And it does resonate. And that's kind of interesting at a movie from, again, how many movies from 1971 have we been like, man, it's a mirror to what we're holding up to society right now?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think you're wrong to mention that. I think if Billy Jack existed today, he'd go out and fight ICE. That sounds entirely accurate to, his perspective or whatever. I think the issue to me is not that any of the political positions espoused in this movie are necessarily like so wrong or that I'm so opposed to. I just think the movie doesn't really have, and I think maybe Tom Laughlin doesn't really have a handle on what exactly Billy Jack or his movie stands for.
I think he knows who Billy Jack is. He is Billy Jack, right? It's the rest of them but I do think, yes, there's a lot of like basic takes without looking any deeper beyond the surface on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Billy Jack is obviously this is a massive vanity project for Tom Laughlin. And Billy Jack as a character is so ridiculously infallible that, there almost isn't a political position. The political position of this movie is that Billy Jack should just save everyone and do everything that he wants, and everyone should listen to him.
Well, it's totally fine because you don't even have to ask him to save you. He just knows when to show up.
Right.
Except that time that his lady got raped. He wasn't available.
Right. Maybe she wasn't mentally reaching out to him.
Or when his friend got murdered. So
yeah.
Maybe this whole he just show up. We could do a better job than to notify him.
Billy Jack needs a pager. Did they have pagers in 1971?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he needs something. A walkie-talkie.
You would have to, or like a phone booth, public phone booth that you can just call the number by Billy Jack's trailer, and every time it rings, like Billy Jack's up. Business is about to pick up.
Yeah, something like that. But the current system seems to not be working very well. So. Jason, you did your research, but had you seen Billy Jack, or were you familiar with the Billy Jack phenomenon before this?
I was familiar with the phenomenon. Tarantino talks about it in his books and in his speculation. And I'm also very familiar with 1980s wrestler Billy Jack Haynes, who I think is somewhat modeled on this, who in real life murdered his wife and is in jail right now for that. And is a big conspiracy theorist. So it would probably be like one of the people Billy Jack would fight. So,
See, this is one thing that I wonder. I did just say that in if Billy Jack existed now, he would fight against ICE. But especially in the sort of hippy-dippy milieu of the Freedom School here, there are tons of people from that perspective, from this era, who are now hardcore conspiracy theorists and MAGA people. So I feel like there is a not insignificant chance that, in fact, Billy Jack would have stormed the Capitol.
Oh, my God. How sad.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think is as a Native American, he would. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
But Native American.
Billy Jack, the character, is Native American, Josh.
Billy Jack, the character, is part Native American. Tom Laughlin is not.
Well, Josh, none of these like January 6th people ever made up stuff about themselves. So I just see this is
that's what I'm saying. He fits in with them. A guy pretending to be a Native American from a made up Native American tribe with made up rituals, who's really just a white guy who's full of himself, would fit right in there, I think.
Man, who knew this was going to be such a politically charged episode already?
Yeah. So, Dave, were you a Billy Jack? I feel like this is something you might have found in your weird meanderings here.
This is something I had been wanting to get to for quite a while because a friend of the show, Joe Black, has brought up Billy Jack many, many times as a puzzle piece on piecing it together. And I believe he even has like a tattoo of Billy Jack.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's a big fan, and he's sung his praises many times to me. I have Billy Jack DVDs for I think all three of these movies. The last three. So I've been meaning to get to them, and so I was really excited when this came up on our list for this season.
Does that tattoo move since he's a bag of pudding?
It dances. It kicks you in the face if you
Yeah, that's what you really need.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he won't be mad at us for this episode then.
Oh, he already wants to record like a rebuttal and send it.
Oh, I hope he does.
So yeah.
Please do that. I'm, as you know, Bag of Pudding Joe Black's best work is his rebuttal to Clerks 3. So,
Yeah.
and I was in one of his movies, and I'm telling you that's his best work. So, yeah, please give us the rebuttal.
Oh boy. All right. He's just going to come and kick us in the face. I think that's going to be the rebuttal.
I mean, it's better than
keeping with Billy Jack.
Yeah.
Better than a Pup-Ups gospel album.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I you know what? I think I'm with you guys in that I had heard of this as a pop culture phenomenon, and I find this kind of stuff fascinating. Again, the idea that this was like massively popular and then essentially completely forgotten about, aside from people like Joe Black, who were like these hardcore fans of it. So I was very curious to check this out. I did not, like Jason, watch The Born Losers, and I feel like I've sufficiently satisfied my Billy Jack curiosity and will not be watching any further Billy Jack films. But I'm glad that we get to talk about such a weird phenomenon.
All right, Josh, when we come back, I'm going to give you a theory on why this was so popular.
All right, well, we'll do that. We'll come back and talk some of our general thoughts on Billy Jack. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1971, we are talking about cult classic Billy Jack. And Jason, you have a theory on why this was a huge hit.
I do have a theory because you're thinking time and place, right? 1971. And we're talking about, I love specific subgenres, and this subgenre is vetsploitation, which is what Rambo was,
this is obviously a massive influence on First Blood, the first Rambo movie.
Right. So Vietnam vet comes back, has to find his place in society and has to deal with all the corruption involved in it. And I think those themes definitely spoke to America at the time, which is that most of the people did not want to be at war. Most of the people were wondering why so many Americans and hopefully why so many Vietnamese people were dying for no reason. And meanwhile, the fat cats in Washington are just getting richer and not having to worry about anything. And I think the idea of vetsploitation, which is not a genre that we see like we used to see. We see plenty of like, yeah, this guy used to be in the military and now he, runs an Orange Julius, but he can kick your ass, right? But this is like really digging into that, like, forgotten hero coming home, needs a place in society at a time when we didn't really know what our society was anymore. So I think that is a big reason, kind of mirrored what was going on in the world at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and First Blood has a lot of that. And I think in a much more effective way as like a story. But I think you're absolutely right. And I think part of the reason that was a thing was because people came back from Vietnam to a reception that was very hostile in a lot of ways. And I feel like
it was their fault, like that they sent themselves over there to kill people.
Exactly. And I think now, regardless of what you think of any military action of the U.S. taken overseas, there is a much less hostile reaction if someone says, "Oh, I'm a veteran." That even people who might oppose policies that the military is forced to enact would not treat veterans that way as they're treated like in First Blood. On the other hand, Vietnam is barely, if at all, mentioned in this movie.
Right. We know who he is, right? But, assuming 64 is when we kind of probably really got into Vietnam, right? 64, 65. So it's already 7 years going on. There's already been tons of lies from Washington and lots of hidden agendas. So I think people were looking for some type of release, however they could cling on to it.
Yeah, I think that's true. On the other hand, I think part of the sort of muddled politics of this movie is that one thing I also thought of was you mentioned Buford T. Justice, from Smokey the Bandit, but I thought of Buford Pusser from Walking Tall, who is a sheriff who is essentially like a vigilante. And I mean, like Billy Jack is not law enforcement. And in fact, the bad guys in this movie are at least, in one case, a law enforcement officer.
Deputy sheriff.
The deputy.
The main sheriff is like a good guy trying to give everyone a chance to just live and let live.
Right. But on the other hand, Billy Jack is essentially, we never see any like authority on the Indian reservation. Billy Jack seems to be basically judge, jury, and executioner for these people. And so I think it is a vigilante, it is a vetsploitation kind of thing, sympathetic to veterans, but it's also in its own way like a vigilante movie, which I think goes to this fascist sense. Like if we just had a really strong, violent guy who could control everyone, things would be okay.
But, the reservation, while it is mentioned as a reservation, like, hey, you can't shoot these horses. This is, Indian land. We would call it Native American land now.
Right.
It's not really much of a reservation. There's like this school, the hippie school that has, a mixed group of people, and Billy Jack has a trailer. Are there any other Native Americans living on this reservation anywhere, Josh?
I mean, there is the long scene of Billy Jack engaging in this ridiculous ritual where he gets bitten by a rattlesnake multiple times. And there's a whole cast of extras there who seem to be meant to represent his fake tribe that he made up. So those people got to live somewhere, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair. So
you guys both gave your opinions. Can I chime in real quick on why this hit so hard?
Yeah.
People like seeing people get kicked in the face.
Absolutely. And that is true. And I would argue that if that is the case, this movie is severely lacking in face kickings.
But the face kickings are very good, though. There's some boom right into the face,
Right. But I agree with you. There was probably needing to be more face kicking.
I would have liked more. Yeah.
But also, we've covered Bruce Lee from this year. I think, Billy Jack might be, face kicking wasn't that prevalent before this either, right? This is maybe towards the beginning of the face kick boom, Josh. So,
sure. Yeah.
So, seeing an American hero do a lot of that face kicking, I could see your point, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we should mention that not only is Billy Jack this like mystic of the Native American tradition or whatever, and he speaks to the Great Spirit and knows all, he's also a karate expert. So he's got so much going on here.
Well,
he's so like invincible in so many ways.
Going to correct you on that, Josh. Not a karate expert. He is a Hapkido expert, Josh.
Oh, okay, right. He's a martial arts expert. I feel like, maybe a hybrid or something like that.
Yeah, Hapkido. Which is it employs joint locks, grappling, chokeholds, throwing techniques, kicks, punches, and other striking attacks. It also teaches the use of traditional weapons. So there you go.
Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, you're right though, Jason. Like that Bruce Lee movie was eventually shown in the US and was popular in the US, but that was a Hong Kong production that started in Asia, and so it was not a big thing here in the US in films. Martial arts films were not common here at this point. So this was a new thing for people to check out. Tom Laughlin was bringing this to the US in his own weird way.
If we get a few new Patreon subscribers, can we kick you in the face, Dave?
Oh, kick Dave. I was going to say no, but if it's Dave,
I do get the money from the Patreon, so I guess that makes sense. So
you get a nice kick to the face for
Let's do it.
I don't think I could raise my leg high enough to kick Dave in the face, to be honest.
I just got a memory of how crazy the open mic comedy scene was back here in the day. And there was this comic, Michael J. Herbert, who was a nice guy. And he was not a bad comic, but sometimes he tried too much for attention. And we had this other comic, Booyah, who seemed to know martial arts. And Michael J. Herbert let him do like a chest kick on stage once, and he knocked him all the way off the stage. And I don't know how he took it so well, but he did a good job of taking the chest kick.
That seems bad. Probably led to some damage later on.
I mean, that said, way better than most of the stuff I used to see at open mics.
All right. Anyway, Billy Jack, I feel like the improv stuff and the songs, those folk songs are the kind of thing you would expect at an open mic night, right? Like you're at a coffee house and some random person comes there next on the list and they start singing about their dead brother or whatever. And you're like, what the hell are they talking about?
I mean, you bring up a good point. Is the worst type of open mic improv open mic? Because like now, that's such a refined and difficult skill. Like, I don't want to watch any improv open micers ever in my life.
And that's what this is essentially, because again, these aren't like seasoned professionals. They're kids at a school and they're just sort of.
I don't know about that. You don't think Howard Hessman had a background in improv or anything like that?
Well, I mean, the characters in the film. And yeah, I mean, Howard Hessman, who is plays one of the teachers here under an early pseudonym. But the kids in this movie are all like non-actors, I'm pretty sure. And so they're just muddling through it. And certainly as characters, they're not meant to be like professional actors, or even there's not even an acting school. The improv is just one aspect of the multifaceted education that you get at this fucking weird ass school where you can also weave carpets or whatever.
I think you're. Look, we know people who went to weird colleges. Like, your brother went to a weird college, right? Oberlin was kind of a hippie school.
It's a liberal arts college that's slightly left wing.
But we knew a kid who went to like one of those schools where it was like, you just read books and then you like tend to cattle, right?
Right.
There's plenty of those on the West Coast, like, and I'm sure there's versions on the East Coast. My cousin went to Warren Wilson, like, so I don't think the school itself. I mean, I don't mind an alternative style of education focusing on the arts, Josh. I just think, they could have brought in a few more improv teachers.
Yeah, I just mean, I don't want to watch a bunch of students attempt this bad. And it's not even, you say improv, and I realize that improv doesn't have to be comedic, but I feel like people assume that it is when you say that now, because that's most of what
you assume that because you've never seen a Mike Leigh movie.
But I think people watch a Mike Leigh movie and they don't realize that it would be improvised, And so what they're doing is this very like, it's not even just that it's serious, but it's all like socially conscious message improv.
I know, but last night Josh and I watched, Josh came over. We had a lovely romantic evening at the house. We watched a Secret Mall Apartment, and they were doing tape art. And like, what is that except like creating socially conscious caricatures or pictures on walls in public settings to create some type of message and feeling. So what's the difference?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad to have a socially conscious aspect to your art. I'm saying that improv in this movie is bad. And that is another reason, because what they're doing is they're just beating you over the head with these messages here in this improv in a very clumsy and sort of drawn out way.
100%. Like, dude, there's nothing subtle about this movie. And to me, the issue wasn't that the improv was drawn out. It was that each point of view from the character was drawn out in like 4 scenes. Like, we know Billy Jack's love interest is a pacifist. She tells me this in every scene that she's in. And it only once for her, like, actually moves the character forward, which is after she's been raped. She's like, you don't think I would have wanted to, get revenge, but I had to take the higher road because of this or that, But for the most part, all these characters start in one place and end in the same place.
Yeah, there's no interesting character development. And Billy Jack is not an interesting character. He's like a mythical figure almost, but we don't learn about him as a person. And I will say also, I think one thing that really surprised me is that this movie is called Billy Jack, but there's long stretches of this movie that he is not in.
Dude, you think this is check out the Born Losers. Here he's, you could say he's eating all the scenes, which he's not, but I'm saying like he's way more focused on this in this one than he was in that one.
I mean, at least that though, the title it's titled after the biker gang, right?
Yeah,
so you have a different expectation. But this movie is called Billy Jack. You think Billy Jack would be more central to it?
He's in it.
He's in it. And I think he's always looming over it, right? There's always the anticipation of, is Billy Jack going to show up and what is he going to do? But a lot of the times, as we were saying, he's not there. He needs to be contacted.
Do you think it's not resonating with you because it's not 1971 anymore, and there's no more racism.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, there is. No, I mean, and I think again, that's why I was quoting those critics at the time, when it was, I mean, not that it's not relevant, but it was very specifically relevant to things that were happening then. It still did not resonate with the majority of those people, but it obviously did resonate with an audience. So, I don't know. What other were there other aspects that you particularly liked about this movie?
Hey, Dave, it sounds like Josh has some reservations about this film.
Oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm. That's good.
No, no, there are not. I think I wanted more action. I wanted more clarity. I wanted more conciseness. There are things I didn't mind, and I think had he worked on like character arcs for like where he wanted to see these characters go, I think it would have driven the story forward in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe part of it is that these actors are not up to playing that, but there's definitely.
I mean, but you're saying this, but like, there's plenty of actors in this film. We just mentioned our man Howard Hessman, who was credited as Don Sturdy,
right?
Which is a great '70s porn name. But a lot of these people had like real acting careers.
That's true. I mean, but not the people there. Those are all like the police officers and like the bad guys mostly were these.
You mean like the kids when they're like at the store and they're like, hey, we just want ice cream. Can we have some ice cream? You get out of here, you kids. But like, I know you have ice cream back there. So can we just have a little ice cream?
Yeah. I mean,
I probably did that too. Like that was probably better than the acting in the movie. So I take it back. Sorry.
I mean, they're clearly the focus in terms of like, you don't expect necessarily for there to be character development for these like really cartoonish villains, which they really are. And that's fine. Like they're the bad guys and we're meant to hate them and we do. And they're played by these actors who are a bit more seasoned, who have, they're these character actors from TV and whatnot. But the kids, and especially like Barbara, who kind of catalyzes the whole story, right? She's the one who goes to Haight-Ashbury and gets knocked up. And
yeah, she gets balled by a lot of dudes. That's how she says it.
Yeah, she does. And see, I feel like that was also part of the thing. Like that's early in the movie. And I thought, oh, okay, so does Tom Laughlin hate hippies? Because he says they're raping this poor lady, this poor like teenage girl who went off to find, freedom or whatever. So, but there's a whole hippie kind of message in the freedom school. But anyway, she is the catalyst for the story, right? She comes back, she's pregnant. Her dad, who is the deputy sheriff, is abusive. He beats her up and she runs away, and they kind of give her sanctuary at the freedom school. And that's what sets off this conflict between the school and the townspeople, and then expands out into these larger issues of them hating the hippie school or whatever.
I mean, I took it that there were already all these conflicts. The idea that whenever the Native American kids were going to go into town, they were going to deal with racism and abuse, and there were not. If the sheriff wasn't there, there was no one there to protect him. So I didn't really take that as. I mean, I understand what you're saying from an inciting incident standpoint, but with or without that, I think this lovely piece of land in America would have been the same.
Right. But my point is that she, as a character, is central to the events of the story. Or also I forget his name. Is it Martin? The Native American kid who she kind of, I guess, falls in love with. Not that I bought that at any moment, but I mean, these are the people that you think you want some sort of investment in. You want to care about them. You want them to be characters that you can learn about. Or Jean, the woman who is the head of the school. And they're just not. The acting is bad, but the writing is also bad. And whether it's improv or it's in the script, either way, it's letting these people down in that we don't have any interest in these characters other than the fact that their opponents are so terrible.
Well, besides Bag of Pudding and America itself, Dave Rosen disagrees with you according to his Letterboxd. So Dave, counterpoint the heck out of this guy.
Yeah, I don't know if I can because I didn't like it that much. But
didn't you give it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd?
Yeah, I think I overrated it a little bit. But
see, I told you he always walks back his Letterboxd.
I did like it though. Like I liked how just off the whole movie felt. It was a very strange tone that it's constantly walking. I was talking earlier about the music juxtaposing these like weird scenes, and like It's just nothing really works. I did want to say though, even though out of a 2-hour runtime, we maybe get like about 5 minutes of action. That 5 minutes of action, I thought some of that was really fun. Like obviously the face kicking, like I mentioned, but also how like kind of squirrely and fast paced he is, and the way that he cuts his action and the way that he choreographs it. I don't know. Did you guys like any of that little bit of action that there was?
I didn't mind the action. I just wanted more of it. It was a lot of like that early 70s cutaway stuff. And they're like, I want that visceral kind of stuff that, you get and you do get some in the 70s, and we're going to be talking about it in a bonus episode. But yeah, I want more of that, like in your face stuff.
Yeah, I didn't mind. Like the action was kind of cool. And he does a great action movie thing where you see that even now, where the action hero is underestimated and he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this to you and you're going to get fucked up. And the bad guy's like, oh, you could never do that to me. And then boom, he just does it right away. And that's always a fun action movie beat. So I did like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like Josh's performance there.
That was good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's better than the performance from a lot of the actors in this film. That city council scene. Oh my God, that scene is so terrible. And like, it's also clearly, it's not meant to be an improv performance, but it was clearly improvised by the actors. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And they didn't mic it properly. It's like echoey and you can't hear what people are saying.
Bro, it's an independent movie in the 70s, man. Give it a break.
I mean, the rest of it looks like it was at least technically competent, right? You
got that some sweet opening credits, like helicopter shots of the horses being... I was glad none of the horses fell off the mountain. That would have really bummed me out.
Yeah, I did wonder. I feel like this is the kind of movie where you would read later on that like, actually 4 horses died in the production of this film. But no, as far as I'm aware, that did not happen. But you're right. Yeah, there's like, obviously they had helicopter shots in that sequence. And, you watch like a lot of these kind of independent films, or especially like vanity projects, which I always find fascinating, which, there's a lot of movies where it's like, I am a rich guy and I have a lot of money, so I'm going to make a movie about how awesome I am, where I star in it, and a lot of those are very poorly put together. And that's, I think, why that I noticed that. I was like, oh, somebody forgot the mic in this scene or whatever, because you just can't hear what these people are saying.
Well, Josh, when you make a movie that gives you a return of, 100 times or whatever,
right,
and you can criticize Billy Jack. Until then, you're going to get kicked in the face.
Yeah.
Well, Billy Jack did, or not Billy Jack, Tom Laughlin did later on in his career, when he wasn't having as much success, purchase billboards that insulted critics as people who just couldn't make it in the movie business. So he might agree with you.
Chill out, Laughlin.
Yeah. That's like, if nothing else, everything we learned about Tom Laughlin here would demonstrate that he is not a person capable of chilling out.
I mean, he does, he's a fascinating character to research. We could talk about that coming up. So.
Yeah, we will. So I guess I feel like we've got, do you have anything more you want to say about this film? Anything you want to delve into thematically?
Here's the premise. You guys are podcasters, but the cops are at your door. But you have a podcast to finish, and go.
Yeah. No improv on this podcast.
Oh, it's all scripted, our podcast?
It's all scripted. No improv acting on this podcast.
No, I'm good to rate it, bro.
So. All right. Should we rate it out of 5 face kicks?
Yeah. Have we done that one before or no? So.
Probably. I'm sure we've done other movies where people get kicked in the face.
Then I'm
rate it out of 5 rattlesnake bites. I think Billy Jack only got 3 rattlesnake bites.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I gave it 2.5, so I think I was more than fair to it.
Yeah, I give it 2 rattlesnake bites. I do think I'm glad I saw it because I think it's a fascinating cultural artifact, but I didn't enjoy it. So, Dave, do you want to revise your rating?
Nope, I'm going with 3.5 rattlesnake bites. I thought it was enjoyable enough, even if it wasn't the totally wacky movie I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, so Joe Black will approve of that at least.
Yeah.
So we'll come back and talk about the legacy of Billy Jack. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1971, we are talking about cult classic Billy Jack. And Jason, as you said, Tom Laughlin is a fascinating figure. I feel like in the vein of crackpots who make their own movies about how awesome they are, he is fascinating. Those guys are always fascinating.
Well, besides the credit we have to give him for making such a huge cultural phenomenon as an independent film and changing the way that movies are promoted. Like you said, I mean, before Jaws, he had a wide release opening weekend. He used TV trailers during national news for, to kind of like promote his opening day. He already did this Montessori school. He ran for president. He wrote books on Jungian psychology and the theories of cancer, what causes cancer. So like, he's just not like, I mean, there's so much crazy stuff. I like his quote from 1975, "The youth of this country have only two heroes, Ralph Nader and Billy Jack."
Yeah. And I feel like if you're that full of yourself, it doesn't work unless you remain popular, because you can be that full of yourself if you're like the Beatles or Taylor Swift or whatever. But once you're not popular anymore, it doesn't work. And, that's when it's kind of fascinating, I think, in a way, and entertaining, this guy running for president and demanding to be included in debates. And I think he ran twice as a Democrat and once as a Republican, because he's just opportunistic and trying to get in wherever he can. And it sounds like that book that he wrote about cancer was one of these, like, you can positive attitude your way out of having cancer. So
yeah, I just said it was theories, of like what he thought caused it. I mean, you would like today, Steven Seagal comes to mind, right?
Oh yeah, Steven Seagal is like, watching this, I was like, this guy is a cross between Tommy Wiseau and Steven Seagal. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And and that's why I wondered, like, if Billy Jack was around today, would he be an RFK Jr. supporter? Probably yes.
I just got into it with one of those yesterday where he was like, oh, he wants to do this and, get sugar out of food. And I'm like, yeah, why don't you ever mention that measles are like at their highest rate in 30 years? And he's like, I think you misunderstand RFK. I'm like, you say you want science. Science is based on facts. These are facts,
Yeah, Billy Jack wasn't into facts. Billy Jack was into being bitten by a rattlesnake 3 times and thinking his way out of it.
He would have been a good Pentecostal preacher in Florida.
Yeah, so that's why I question whether we should be fully endorsing Tom Laughlin and Billy Jack. But he's dead, so we can just be entertained and amused by his complete fringe weirdness, and I do like that, and like you said, yeah, Steven Seagal. I've never seen. Dave, have you seen On Deadly Ground? I feel like that's a movie
a long time ago, and yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And, that was the height where, like, Steven Seagal was at the height of his fame and used all his clout to make a movie where he, like, punches people who are going to, kill the environment or whatever.
Yeah, they're going to drill for oil on like an Alaskan reservation, right? Or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
And I mean, he was a white guy who was really into the spiritual aspects of his martial arts practice. He either claimed he had Native American heritage or claimed kinship with Native Americans like Tom Laughlin. And, he is now best friends with Putin.
Yeah. He did get choked out by a wrestler on one of the sets of his movies. And then he fired the wrestler for choking him out because he's like, oh, like it was a pro wrestler who's like a legit shooter, right? And, oh, you're a big tough guy. I think it was Danny Hodge. And then Danny Hodge just choked him out. But, there's all these stories. I read that book, The Last Action Heroes, and it's fascinating reading about what a asshole Steven Seagal is. There was a movie that I think Clint Eastwood wanted to, maybe it was like Striking Distance or something, not, one of those from the early 90s. And Steven Seagal bought the rights just so he could say, I have the rights and Clint Eastwood doesn't. And he made that movie for just particularly for that reason.
Yeah. And Seagal, I've seen a few recent Seagal movies where it's so pathetic because he obviously can't do anything that he used to be able to do. He sits he barely even stands up most of the time. And, he kind of listlessly moves around and some stunt double punches somebody in the face, but he's still presented as if he's this like amazing, dangerous figure who's also like a brilliant guru or whatever.
I mean, that said, he did cool shit in the 80s, just like Billy Jack did cool shit in the 70s. So
yeah. So there were two sequels to this, The Trial of Billy Jack in 1974, which, as we mentioned, was the movie that was kind of a precursor of blockbuster marketing. And then Billy Jack Goes to Washington in 1977, which, as far as I've read, is basically like a remake of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but with Billy Jack. And that movie was not a success, and that kind of killed the whole Billy Jack phenomenon.
Wasn't it 3 hours long, though? That's
The Trial of Billy Jack is 3 hours long. I believe Billy Jack Goes to Washington is only 2.5 hours.
I didn't research it, but I'm guessing The Trial of Billy Jack is, the ending of this movie. He turns himself in, and is it the trial that basically from this?
I assume so. I didn't watch it either because I'm not going to watch a 3-hour Billy Jack movie, but I'm imagining there's probably more speeches and less face kicking in that movie, which is the opposite of what you really would want, I think, out of these films. So Tom Laughlin attempted to make The Return of Billy Jack in 1985 and actually did start shooting that before that project fell apart. And he basically spent the rest of his life attempting to make another Billy Jack movie that never happened. That was the end of his film career. And as you said, he kind of moved on into that political activism and writing books and whatnot. So a brief but memorable time in the spotlight.
I'd say so, Josh. I like how he said in 1976 that Senator Vance Hartke got up. I think this must have been with, he probably was seeing Billy Jack Goes to Washington before it came out. And he said, it'll never get out because Billy Jack was revealing the secrets of how the Senate was bought out by the nuclear industry. And then he said that the senator charged at him. Walter Cronkite's daughter was there, and so was Lucille Ball.
And that 100% did not happen. I guarantee it didn't.
I just said I liked that he said it.
Yes, yes, I do too.
Delores Taylor only did Billy Jack movies and did Billy Jack, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I do.
Because they were married and had kids. That's what I meant. So
yeah, they were married for, until Tom Laughlin died and she passed away a few years later. Yeah, I mean, most of the actors in this film either had no other credits or there's, some character actors. I noted down, just as you mentioned, Howard Hessman, of course, later a huge sitcom star with WKRP and Head of the Class. And Kenneth Tobey, who plays the evil deputy, was also a very prolific character actor who appeared in a couple movies that we did episodes on. He was in Airplane and in Gremlins.
Nice. Two fun facts. And if I say they're fun facts, they're going to be fun. In 2019, it was revealed that Tarantino and Brad Pitt used Billy Jack and Laughlin's performance as an influence while developing Pitt's character of Cliff Booth in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. How's that for fun?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I wonder if the new Cliff Booth movie will be 3 hours long. It will be like The Trial of Billy Jack or something. But yeah, I mean, you can see the influence here on Tarantino, on, as we said, on Rambo, on Steven Seagal, and again, on any weird guy who's like, I'm going to make a movie, on like Tommy Wiseau, who's like, I can be the star of this movie because I am awesome.
Well, I mean, if you're assuming that Billy Jack is like the first independent blockbuster action star, right? The movie he was going to make in the 2000s was going to be called Billy Jack's Crusade to End the War in Iraq and Restore America to its Moral Purpose, which is a great title. Who doesn't want to say Billy Jack's Crusade to End the War in Iraq and Restore America to its Moral Purpose? Then shorten to Billy Jack's Moral Revolution, then shorten to Billy Jack for President, then shorten to Billy Jack and Gene, which I think is referencing the Legend of Billie Jean, which is, I think, influenced by this. And he was going to do like scenes, like real scenes, but he was also going to have a fake debate with Billy Jack and George W. Bush. And like all the Bush clips would have just been clips that he would have found from archived speeches. So like, again, way ahead of his time, Josh.
In making something that would have been horrendously bad.
Inspired by Hal TV.
Yeah, I don't know. Billy Jack, was he going to make America great again? Yeah, I'm skeptical of all that, really. So, but I was trying to think, Jason, you mentioned the Blair Witch Project, but I was trying to think of an analog for, regardless of the political content or whatever, the idea that this is sort of almost like outsider cinema and then becomes this massive phenomenon. I mean, we talk about The Room all the time, but it's not like The Room was #1 at the box office ever. Like, is there anything else like that you can think of?
Paranormal Activity.
Right. Yeah, that's one too. I feel like those are slightly different. I mean, even though they are similar in that way, but they weren't, they weren't this sort of like cult of personality thing.
Maybe Terrifier series? Would that
maybe with
kinda?
Art the Clown, I guess.
What about Michael Moore?
Michael Moore, I mean, that's a documentary, and I'm sure no Michael Moore movie ever made as much as Billy Jack made.
No, that's not true. You don't think that like Fahrenheit 9/11 and Bowling for Columbine made that type of money?
$50 million or the equivalent 100%. Of 1971's $50 million? I don't know. Maybe.
I believe it.
Okay. You could be right. I mean, I'm thinking of early, Michael Moore's breakout, like Roger and Me, which we did do an episode on. And
Fahrenheit 9/11, $6 million budget, $222.4 million box office, Josh.
That feels like such a weird relic of another time too. That movie made $200+ million.
Yeah,
now it would make $0 on HBO.
Yeah,
right. But the idea of a filmmaker making a movie about lies from politicians feels like something we could use more of. So
yeah, and that's true. And I mean, actually, I feel like you're right that Michael Moore is a good analog. I mean, he only made one terrible narrative movie, but
it wasn't terrible. It's better than Billy Jack.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I believe
he's talking about Canadian bacon, where the U.S. wants to invade Canada, right?
Yeah,
that's the premise of it. Yeah, what a fictional idea that is.
Right? Maybe it was ahead of its time. Maybe I need to rewatch Canadian Bacon. But I mean,
it's not good. It's just
Michael Moore's documentaries do like have him as a central figure and as this kind of crusader. He doesn't kick people in the face, but he does confront them. And so, maybe Michael Moore is the modern Billy Jack. I hadn't thought of that.
Well, that's why I'm here, baby.
So, anything else you want to say about the legacy of this film?
No.
All right. Well, we'll kick you in the face later.
Okay.
That is Billy Jack, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can kick us in the face online and on social media.
Oh, my face! At awesomemovieyear.com. Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram. If you go on Letterboxd and you cover one of our movies, make sure you tag it with Awesome Movie Year. I'm Jason Harris Comedy or Jay Harris Comedy on all the things, and go for Jason on Letterboxd.
You can find some old things from me at joshbellhateseverything.com. I am at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on Blue Sky and on Letterboxd. And check out our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at Piecing Pod and join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where I'm sure there's plenty of Billy Jack fans hanging out.
And speaking of that, Jason, what is in our next episode?
We left it up to our audience. We had an audience choice poll based on horny lady vampires. There were so many to choose from in 1971. Shall I tell you what won, Josh?
Please do.
Sadly, it was not Vampiros Lesbos. It was Daughters of Darkness, which might be great. We haven't seen it.
So. I have seen it, and there are some Vampiros Lesbos in that movie. So
me gusta mucho.
You will appreciate it.
Yeah.
So tune in next time for Daughters of Darkness, and thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.